Welcome back to the channel, everybody. Today we're talking about Gladiator 2. I have a lot of thoughts on the movie, and if you've seen it already, make sure you drop your thoughts in the comments. This movie is over 20 years in the making, and I know that everyone's going to be asking the question, was I entertained? Let's talk about it. Years after witnessing the death of Maximus at the hands of his uncle, Lucius must enter the Colosseum after the powerful emperors of Rome conquer his home. With rage in his heart and the future of the empire at stake, he looks to the past to find the strength and honor needed to return the glory of Rome to its people. Sounds pretty cool, right? Right? The way that the story plays out mirrors the first Gladiator, but only being slightly different and nowhere near as good. The movie really does rush to get Lucius to the Colosseum, and by doing so, misses tons of character motivation, tons of character development, and it just leaves you wanting more. And because of how fast the setup is, you don't have enough time to really care about what's going on. And by the 30 or 40 minute mark, you should really start to care about what the end goal is of the movie you're watching. Alright, let's talk acting. Our main character, Lucius, is played by Paul Mescal, and while he does fine in the role, that's all it is. Fine. Now, I don't know if I'm just comparing him to Russell Crowe or if the writing for his character was that bad, but I just found Lucius to be not that interesting of a character. I never really found myself rooting for him, and that's a big problem if that's your protagonist. Pedro Pascal, Zaddy. So his character was actually my favorite. He's a general in the Roman army, and he clearly doesn't like what Rome stands for and what they're all about, and he just wants out of his role, but he is trapped in it. And I actually think a story focused on that kind of story would have been way better for Gladiator 2 than the story that we actually got. You can tell pretty early on about how torn his character Marcus is, and that makes him really interesting, and you start to care about him. Almost. The problem here is that he isn't the main character, so everything that I just said that he does so well, it's fed to you in microdoses. Once again, acting is great, but writing, not so much. Connie Nielsen is back as Lucilla, and surprisingly, she gets a lot of screen time. And her character might actually be one of the best written characters in the entire movie. She's stuck between a rock and a hard place, and you really do feel that throughout the entire movie, and they spend a good amount of time focusing and zeroing in on that. So yeah, her character might be the best written character in the entire movie. Joseph Quinn and Fred Hatchinger play the two emperors of Rome, and they are wild. I'm not really sure if that's a good or a bad thing, but they are very entertaining on screen. They're both loose cannons, and you never know what they're gonna do. Now, they're not really great villains, but they are so entertaining, and they're kind of goofy, but in the best way. Denzel. I swear, this dude is one of the best actors of all time, but you already knew that. And his character is good up until a point where he kind of flips and starts doing these weird sporadic things that don't really feel earned and just feel really abrupt. Are you starting to see a pattern here with the writing? So my favorite thing about Gladiator 2 is the world building. It felt very immersive. The movie had a budget of over $200 million, and you feel like they spent every cent of that. The costumes, the weapons, the sets, it all looked really good. If you were in the Colosseum or the jail cells, it looks grimy and gritty and just so dirty. And then you go to the palaces and it just oozes royalty. I felt so immersed in this world. That is until the CGI baboons, sharks, and rhinos showed up. Every single animal that they go up against in this movie looks terrible and out of place. Now, one of my biggest issues that I have with this movie is that it goes for big action set pieces over story. There's just way too much CGI in this. They should have just stuck with the hand-to-hand combat, the swords, and just kept it simple like the original did, and it is way more effective that way. Now, the best way to put it is that Gladiator 2 focuses on spectacle over story. Now, I know I keep comparing it to the first one, but I mean, if someone asked me, Gavin, what is a great example of a perfect movie from start to finish? Gladiator is a fantastic example. This is a movie that tries to be big and flashy, and it is, but behind all the big action pieces, behind all the CGI, behind all of the action, it's just a movie that is really hard to justify why it was made. Now, having said that, do you need to see the first to enjoy the second? Not necessarily. There's going to be a lot of nods to the first one, so if you've seen it, you're going to get a lot more out of the second one. They're going to bring up Maximus a lot, but it's not a necessity to understand what's happening in the second. Now, I will say if you haven't seen the original at this point, maybe just go see the sequel and just go in with a clean slate. I'm wondering if those that go see this one before the original will just enjoy it for what it is, an action movie set during the Roman Empire, and just really enjoy it more. While there are things that I did like about it, there just wasn't enough to enjoy here. Almost none of the characters are written well. The actors did a great job with what they had to work with, but that just cannot save the movie for me. It's a 2.5-hour movie that just had nothing to say. But hey, you know, at least it looked good. Sometimes. This is another legacy sequel that should have just stayed a concept and not turned into a reality. But always remember that movies are subjective, and if you are interested in seeing Gladiator 2, I urge you to go see it because things that didn't work for me might work for you, and I really hope they do. Thank you all for watching my video. Once again, let me know your thoughts on the movie down in the comments, and if you liked my review, don't forget to subscribe to the channel for movie news, reviews, rankings, recaps, and plenty more. Until the next video, everybody. See you later.